Go tell Aunt Rhody. Go tell Aunt Rhody. Go tell Aunt Rhody that everybody's dead.
Welcome to episode 7 of the Dangerous ASMR podcast. I am Steven, MovieBuff 3000, and this is my good friend IrhaBoggle.
Hello.
Today, after a week of taking a break, and after interviewing Todd, the writer of Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde, everyone's favorite Dangerous ASMR series, we've kind of have missed a few episodes of the Dangerous ASMR YouTube channel. And basically, this episode's going to be dedicated to reviewing the 6 audios that we haven't talked about yet. So, yeah, this is going to be like a nice, quick episode. Just kind of us just chatting about the 6 that we missed. Although the month of August is going to be pretty cool. We actually have a schedule now, assuming that everything goes all right. So, yeah, let's get on with the pimping of DA.
All right, and this week it is my turn to do it. Obviously, she has a YouTube, so go to subscribe to that. She also has a Patreon, which you absolutely should donate to because it's $3 or $5 a month, and you get everything. That's a really good deal, and there's so much that's it's definitely worth it. Best subscription ever. And then her Discord, where Steven and I are recording this podcast. There's an entire server. It's full of awesome fellow fans and script writers. There's never a dull moment. And Dangerous herself visits us every Saturday night / Sunday morning. She comes around midnight Eastern Standard Time, though sometimes the times change. But yeah, if you want to talk to her yourself, you got to join the Discord, especially for the Saturday night calls. Then she's also got a Twitter where it basically acts like another YouTube notification, because even though she does tweet out stuff occasionally, for the most part, it's just her saying, hey, check out this new video that just released. And then her most recent addition to all of her social medias would be a Redbubble account, because she is now selling her own merch, which is absolutely worth a look, because I bought myself 3 shirts and I like them all. And you guys can't see this, of course, but I actually happen to be wearing one of those shirts right now. But anyways, that's, the usual spiel of all the stuff Dangerous has to offer. You should absolutely check out every single thing I just said. All the links will be in the description. But now let us proceed with the actual meat of the podcast, which, like Steven said, is just to play catch-up for the 6 audios we missed.
Well, finally, after months of waiting, we have received the next episode of Cuddled in the Lamia's Coils, written by Game. This is episode 3 of the other Lamia series, because Dangerous has 8 of them at this point. And I love all 3 of them. So what'd you think of this episode, Boggle?
I enjoyed it, honestly, especially because the author, Gamer2345, he and I have kind of talked about his series before, because any of you guys on Patreon, you know that there's a good chance I'm going to leave a rather long and in-depth comment on every video. I mean, not every video, sometimes my comments are shorter, but I think because I leave usually fairly thorough comments, that attracts the eyes of the authors. And after, I think it was the part 1 or 2 that I had left a comment on, Gamer reached out to me through Discord, and I was like, okay, so you seem really interested in my series. I'm kind of at a loss of how I should proceed. What do you think? And while I'm not saying I helped him write this script, because I didn't, I did kind of know what it would be about for a while now, because again, he basically used me as a sounding board, and he would bounce ideas off of me. So to actually see it come to light, I really enjoyed, because there's just something kind of cool about it, that even though I didn't have a hand in it directly, to have heard what he had in mind and then to see it unfold in real time, it's like, oh yeah, I remember we talked about this. And I enjoyed the episode, because I thought it was kind of a nice, cute, calm little one, which is kind of Gamer's idea, because anybody who remembered the last one, that was when you were with Alessandra, who was more of the kind of low-voiced seductress, who's a little bit, pun fully intended, a little bit dangerous and threatening. So then to enter part 3 and go back to Yara, the first Lamia you ever met, it was kind of like a return to form for one, but also because she is meant to be gentler and softer than Alessandra. It was kind of like that, not quite a mood whiplash, but just a tonal shift. So it was kind of nice to be back with her again after not seeing her for several parts, and it was more of a intentionally a relaxing one because, you know, anybody who's listening, you know, you're bathing in a hot spring with her, so of course you've got like the kind of bath/watery ASMR, and just listening to her speak, her voice is vastly different. It was kind of just more of a relaxer episode, I suppose you could say.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that binaural mic though.
Yes, I love it so much. Like that's what I always say in the comments, is that the binaural whispers are good, and that's definitely true with this episode because I think it's towards the end ish when Yara's kind of mentioning how when she first brought the listener to the village, you know, that first night she spent by your side looking after you, kind of the way you responded in your sleep to her touch. They had Dangerous whispering that, you know, back and forth between the ears. And I mean, that was like my favorite part of the episode just because the whispers were so good. And I'm like, I want to loop this specific part because of the whispers, the binaural whispers. I always say binaural is my kink, and that is so true because it just felt so nice.
I really love how just overall sweet the series is. Knowing knowing the kind of stuff that Dangerous does usually, I'm always very suspicious of like when something's gonna turn. Which we'll kind of get into that when we talk about another series that's on the list for this week. And so like even like this one, I was like, okay, like I felt some kind of sinistery stuff from episode 2, and then no, this is just a very like nice and wholesome and like calm episode. It's I actually listened to this twice. I listened to it when it first came out, and then I listened to it again this week just for a little refresher. And yeah, I've been really enjoying the series. I'm a big fan of like Lamia's, and this. Yeah, I'm actually not sure which one I like better between this or Kazi's series. But this one definitely like makes me feel really happy every time I listen to like a new episode. And as much as I like Yandere, Lamia's nice and gentle and sweet Lamia's are very very nice too. It's always so weird for me to hear a Lamia that's like the coils cuddling is consensual. I find that like really cute about this episode, how she's like just talking about how much she appreciates it and that she lets him do it. But yeah, a lot of interesting developments in this one, and then this one ends. I actually prefer how this one ends because there's a lot of like Dangerous episodes where like, you know, there's like a big like push towards like a relationship and it just cuts off there. And this one had like an extra minute and then faded out. I was like, no, wait, what happened? But hey, at least we got like a little bit more than we usually do.
I think what I also liked about the ending, actually, I'm glad you kind of brought that up, was that was something Gamer and I talked about, where that was part of one of his questions, was the direction he wanted Yara and the listener, both as individuals and a possible couple, to go. And I remember mentioning to him that it just because of who I am, I prefer listeners who fight back when they're taken against their will. Because even though this Lamia is not like a classic Yandere, it's still that sense of she took you in and she won't let you leave. And even if she's a sweetheart, I'm always like, fight, escape, run, flee. Even if you don't get more than 2 feet before she catches you, don't go down like a coward. Go out like a fighter. So I told him, I was like, I'm not necessarily asking for conflict, but I did say I appreciate characters who don't just roll over and submit. So he kind of compromised between being a little bit of a fighter, but also, you know, kind of pushing towards a gentler side anyways, because this is not a classical Yandere. Like Steven said, you know, Yara made it very clear how much she cares about the listener genuinely, and she's got this kind of innocent affection for him. It's not like a possessive, oh, my love, we were meant to be together and we will be together forever. It's a little more wholesome than that. And she does go on this like little spiel about consent, which I also appreciated. So I guess to kind of like make it fit tonally in this episode, the way the listeners quote unquote fighting back was, yeah, at the very end there is a scene where like she's right in the middle of saying, hey, it's your call. If you want to do anything with me, you can, but I want you to feel comfortable before we do it. that's when the listener abruptly kind of kisses her as like, you know, to kind of tease her, because right as she starts getting into it, that's when the listener pulls away and leaves her hanging. And I just remember laughing at the part, because that is something he talked about with me, where he said, well, does this sound kind of feisty enough for you? I was like, yeah, I guess that works. So even though it's still not quite my brand of fire, I appreciated that he did actually throw that in, that kind of playful, flirty ending where, even if only in a small way, the listener kind of gets the upper hand for once, and it's not just him being dragged around by the Lamias, being told what to do and being hypnotized or being scared into place. Instead, it was just, even if only in a tiny way, him kind of regaining control, so to speak, because that kiss caught her off guard, and then he walked off, and she's like, wait, hang on, you can't just leave me hanging, bro. And he does, and I'm like, that was satisfying. It was a good ending. I appreciate that, because it's not often that you see it in these audios, because yeah, usually the audios of Dangerous are the more classical Yandere, where you are completely at her mercy. So to see something like this where it's a little more balanced, a little more dynamic, was nice. Just because I did think the ending was kind of cute, the like tease flirting, I liked it.
It's always nice when the listener makes moves.
Yeah, rather than just being a recipient.
Yeah. I think I misinterpreted the ending wrong then. I thought like he was like dragging her to not dragging her, but like taking her by her hand and taking her to like an area where they can talk.
Maybe I misunderstood, because I at least know for a fact, I know what the kiss scene was about, because Gamer and I talked about that in DM, so I know what that was, but because I thought that was how it ended, if I can remember correctly. Yeah, like he kisses her and she kisses back, and then he stops and gets out of the hot springs, and that kind of forces her to chase after him, because they do leave the springs by the end of the episode. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't like the listener outwardly saying, hey, come on, let's go. It's more of a like, he's sauntering off, so she's got to go after him.
I'm sure Game will tell us which one of us is correct, so we'll see.
It's probably me. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe he'll hear what I said and he's like, that's way better, so I'm gonna go with Steven's canon.
Fine with me.
But yeah, I'm definitely excited for the next episode with this.
Yes, because he did say he was greenlit to do part 4, so that's in the future. I have no clue when, but it's a thing. Like that's been confirmed.
And then next we have trapped in a Yandere elevator. This was strange. I do have to say though, I've always been a fan of like Yandere AI related stuff. Kind of like it's. I don't want to say it's an untapped market, because there are like kind of a few, like there's like a lot of like robot servant like type of things like that. Ironically, some of the videos from Sweet as Honey or Honey Audios, she changes her name like every week it seems. She has a lot of really good like Yandere AI ones, and those are kind of my go-to when I want to listen to a Yandere AI. When I want to listen to a Yandere AI based audio. Wow, that was a mouthful for no reason. So I really appreciated Dangerous finally doing it and taking a very interesting approach on this. I've never heard one where an elevator falls in love with you before.
Yeah, I was gonna say the author of this audio is IC, and anybody who's on Patreon might recognize his name, because he's written, I think, 5 not safe for work scripts for Dangerous, and all of them are a similar style of humor where they're completely wackadoo out there. But that's almost what makes them so good, is because there's always a touch of humor in them that you don't expect, but it works so well. And so I think this is his first safe for work audio. But yeah, like Steven said, it was great. It was so unexpected, because I remember a lot of us, the first time we saw the title, thought it was a typo and thought it was going to be trapped in an elevator with a Yandere, rather than the elevator itself being the Yandere. But that's what it was. There was no typo. It was actually, honest to God, the elevator that was falling in love with you. And I think it was so well done. Like, because that's what I love, is when you manage to take something that nobody would ever expect and make it work. Like, who the heck comes up with this stuff? Like, who thinks, elevator? But not only did someone come up with this, but they made it work. That is so cool. And it was just so well done. And just the writing was a perfect balance of funny and scary. And Dangerous's performance was the same way, whereas like she had a very good monotonous AI voice, but she had like just funny lines of dialogue in there. Like when she references, this elevator AI having a sense of humor programmed into it, and at one point she makes these lame elevator puns, and actually a couple of them did genuinely make me laugh. but then just the kind of horror aspect, because I mean, I think this is obvious to anyone who read the title. If you've got an elevator who's in love with you and you're stuck inside it, those doors ain't opening. And I'm like, dude, if I didn't have claustrophobia before, I got it now, because holy God, that really activated it for me. I was like, this is freaky. Like, it was so creepy, but it was so good. Like, I could go on for years about all of it. And like I said, again, IC is really, he's got a lot of great ones. So that's another reason to join the Patreon, is to see his other works. Because like I said, this is his first safe for work script, but he is not a new author. He's done work for her before, but this is really well done.
I'm just really happy that Dangerous got to use her customer service automated voice. She's done that
exactly.
She's done that a couple of times in like the Discord chat, so it's nice to like she finally had something to use it for. That's what really brought the humor to me, and also the creepiness was the voice, because she just talks in like a one monotone voice the whole time and never changes inflections or anything like that. It always sounds the same. So I think that's what really helped like make the script like come alive, because a voice like that, it can either be funny when you say ridiculous things, or it can be very terrifying when you say very terrifying things, like, oh, I brought you to your floor, but now I don't have to let you go and you're just stuck there. It's like, yeah, if you don't like if you're like me and you like elevators, this is going to be like very unnerving to you, even though it is funny. But it's also kind of cute too.
Yeah, that's what I think a lot of us agree on, is as like terrifying and like disturbing as this was. This is what I mean when I say IC and DA really nailed it, because yeah, the elevator was almost in some way kind of lovable, because she was kind of playful and genuinely interested in the listeners, even though she still ultimately like acted in a very traditionally Yandere way. It was a kind of a sweetness about her that everyone's like, oh, what a cutie. And I'm like, yeah, I feel that. And I'm disturbed now myself that I like low-key like this elevator. So well done though, because also like Steven said, yeah, Dangerous has jokingly used her customer service voice for us before, so to see it in an audio officially was like awesome. And again, like, yeah, she sold it with the AI voice of like keeping it monotone and robotic. And just even I think one thing that I kind of found funny and so fitting is anytime she speaks, because this elevator exists in a hotel, that's whom she works for. Every time she mentions the hotel's name, she immediately says kind of like the I guess quote unquote tagline, like when you see McDonald's, it's always followed by "I'm loving it." It's kind of that same deal where every single time she said the name of the hotel, she also said the tagline to go with it. And I don't know how many times she repeats it, but it's supposed to be almost annoying by the end of it, because every single time she just keeps saying the full phrase over and over again. Like, that's so fitting of how AIs function, where like every time you see a brand name, the slogan is right there as well. And it was like, it was such a nice little touch that really sold this is an AI working for a corporation aspect of it, and it was so great.
The Hotel de la Costa is the name of the hotel, by the way.
The world's most luxurious hotel.
And just the thing she says is like always very abrupt. Like she's just kind of having like a nice conversation. She's just like, I like you.
That too, the AI's simplicity, where they just speak so bluntly without meaning to, and it's just, yeah, it was so great. I love that audio so much.
One of my favorite lines was like, based off my facial recognition, I find you attractive, and that's compared to nine. That's compared to, I think it was 900 guest employees, or that's compared that was compared to 900 guests.
I know. I love. That's what I think. Another thing I loved was like, yeah, her kind of methods of flirting, where she does use like this very AI way of flirting, because basically it's the classic calling you cute. But the fact that, yes, like Steven said, she references her facial recognition software in order to back up her claim that you're attractive. That had me laughing, because that was such a creative line. That was so brilliant. I was like, oh my God, this is wonderful.
Now we move on to An Evening with a Rune Mistress. I feel kind of sad that I had to listen to this finally, not for like any like actual reason. It's just, I've been trying to make this a recurring joke that I'm not going to listen to this series. Like, I always like to say, like, oh, I'll probably listen to it when it has 3 episodes. But the writer of the series recently joined the Discord, or at least maybe I just noticed him. So now I'm like, if I do that, then he's going to probably just yell at me next time I bump into him. And I don't want to get...
That's assuming he listens to our podcast.
Yeah, that's a big assumption, but
we have
yeah.
like 5 viewers, guys, so we appreciate all 5 of you.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. We only expected to have 1 viewer.
Yeah, because I don't even listen to these things.
Yeah, I listen to him too much. And so I kind of had to like just listen to this. So I need to find a new series to make a recurring joke I don't listen to. I think I'm just gonna switch it to Witch's Experiment. Sorry, Squitchy, but sacrifices have to be made. So
lucky for you, I listened to them all, so I got us covered.
I'll just cut it out next time. It's like Boggle's like, oh, I've seen Witch's Experiment, and then like, and to the next audio. So yeah, this one was very interesting. Like I was very intrigued by the series by the second one. First off, I like how Dangerous is using her lonely Lamia voice. That's like what I got from it. And so it's very calming at first until she takes off her clothes. Boggle, you can go ahead and continue off of that.
Well, I won't be saying anything that lewd, but I was gonna say yes. When I listened to part 1 back when it dropped, I was like, this is very nice and soothing, and I believe the word they used in the description was enchanting, and I think that really hit it, because the first one was just an introductory where you meet her and you're both alone in the woods together and you just talk and kind of admire the serenity of a peaceful night. Because yes, there's a little bit of the runes in there, but for the most part it's really chill, and I was like, oh, this is a nice little one-off. I mean, I had a feeling it was going to be a series because the way it ended implied a series, but for the part 1, it felt very good for a standalone. I was content with that. But when I saw part 2, half of me was like, I knew it, and the other half was like, ooh, let's go. And so I quickly listened to it, and I loved it even more than the first, because while the first was more calming, I feel like the second one really got into like the story of it.
Yeah.
Because in this one, she takes you back to her abandoned castle, and there you kind of get to understand her backstory, because she already hinted at it in part 1, but like, as a rune mistress, the most of the world fears her and is trying to hunt her down, and she's trying to do something about it, hence why she needs you. And that's why she's now brought you back to her castle. So to hear that, even though we still don't know exactly what she plans on doing with us, to have that like extra bit of information. And also, yes, there's a moment in the audio where, like, for the most part, she is very, she's nice enough, she's gentle. But when you try to leave her, she gets a bit more controlling and dark, and you can hear it in the way her tone shifts and the words she says and how she actually uses her runes to control your body movements. And it's like, oh, we took a dark turn. But after a couple minutes, she snaps out of it and starts apologizing profusely, and her voice goes back to normal. And she's like, yeah, this is the problem with runes, man. Sometimes they take over your mind and you wind up becoming someone you're not. And I'm like, I don't know if I trust you. Like, that could easily be a lie. Like, maybe she actually was that sadistic and it's only claiming the runes made her do it. But that's because Dangerous gave me trust issues. Because like Steven said about the Lamia one, it's a rare day when you actually find a wholesome audio that actually stays wholesome and doesn't later turn out to be some kind of like betrayal.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting just to see that like shift back and forth from the kind of nice rune mistress to the mean rune mistress back to the nice rune mistress. And even like regardless of whether or not she was, because I honestly think she probably is, but that's just the paranoia in me saying she's lying. But regardless of that, I thought this was a really well done episode. I love the sound effects. I love the voices that Dangerous gave her. I love the lore around it, because even though we don't know much, all things considered, we really only know a little bit about her. It is shaping up to be really fascinating. So I am glad to see that it did get a part 2. And I'm interested to see what direction part 3 will go in, since again, part 1 was kind of like this peaceful introductory, but part 2 is a bit more like, okay, now let's get down to business and let's show you what these, sort of a glimpse of what these runes can really do. So I look forward to, if there's ever a part 3, what she'll be having us do to help her with those runes.
Yeah, what I really enjoyed about this one was just how many turns I've kind of taken with this character. At first, I was like, oh, she's like very sweet. And then like the rune thing happened. I'm like, oh, this is classic evil, Dangerous character that's taking advantage of the listener for her own lewd means. But then like, so I was kind of sticking around just because I thought the concept was cool and I like the sound effects and I like how like the character's written. So I was like just kind of just enjoying it like as is. But when partway through episode 2, when it turns out that like she's not really bad, it's just these runes and this power that she has, it's evil. And so she's kind of like she basically has this power that's evil, and she needs to learn how to like contain it, and that's why she got you, because she needed someone to like basically be her rock and to help her like kind of control this. And so that made me like really like intrigued for the storyline, and now I'm like very like I'm excited to see where this goes now. Before it was just when I listened to the first one, I was like, okay, that was nice and interesting. But now I'm like, okay, like what is episode 3 going to be about? So I'm like very intrigued by this series now.
Agreed. It's shaping up to be interesting for all the reasons Steven just said, and I can't wait to see where and how this character develops, and maybe more backstory and what the heck the runes are, and kind of how, how they work. So there's a lot to explore with the series, and I look forward to seeing what the writer has to offer.
Now on to the fourth audio that we're going to discuss. We got episode 2 by Taken by Yandere Orc Girl. Big surprise, because generally like these series don't like come out like so quickly near each other. Like the first episode only came out like 2 weeks before this one, and so I think we're all surprised when like she announced it.
Yeah, updates for audios are very sporadic, guys, because there'll be times when you've got to wait months for another part, but then other times for other series, for some reason, they'll drop within weeks. Because again, like heck, even with Rune Mistress, like I think the wait time between part 1 and 2 was bigger for Rune Mistress than Orc Girl, but it was still fairly quick. Because I was like, man, there are some series that we're still waiting on, and yet Rune Mistress and Orc Girl already have part 2s. I mean, again, like I understand Dangerous uploads what she wants, when she wants, whatever feels right at the moment. That's totally valid and fine. But yeah, it was a surprise to see this one going up so quickly after part 1. So, but it's still a good one.
Yeah, and this was definitely more what I was hoping for. This is definitely more what I was hoping for from episode 1. Because episode 1, it's kind of like, yeah, she has like this cool like orc character, and it is pretty hot. I mean, it is pretty scary that like this orc fought you and you can't fight her off, and you try to run away, she just gets you, and then she just ends up taking you at the end. So this one was more Yandere-ish. I don't know what the proper suffix for that is, and just I really like this episode. Like I really enjoyed like the turn this took. Like I said, this was like something more I was hoping for, and I like how she's basically keeping you there to essentially play house. I also like how the theory that a lot of people had was confirmed, to where she was watching you and she was waiting for you to like cross that line, just to be like, oh, cross the line, that means you're mine now. It kind of like does go into the whole Yandere thing with her, where like she was basically waiting for an opportunity to take you. And what I like about her is she's not just this like, oh, I got you now, I'm gonna like. She's not like the regular like Yandere type. She's, I want to say, a little bit more sweet, but I don't think that's the thing. It just seems like she just wants to be in a relationship, and she wants you to be happy with her, but doesn't want to hurt you unless you try to get away, in which case she'll just give you a big hug. And I also like the kind of logic that the listener goes through, where he's just like, well, I'll tell on you. And she's like, okay, good, go tell on me. We'll be stuck in a cell together. And that way I'll have you all to myself. But yeah, and I just have to give props to Dangerous again. I mean, I was listening to the Fox Goddess series recently, and she has like a really high voice in that. So like, kind of going to this, where this is probably the deepest voice like Dangerous has ever done. It really makes this character stick out. Just the voice, and just kind of how she treats the listener, despite having Yandere status.
Honestly, I think Steven said it fairly well. Like, first of all, yes, part 2 definitely took a more classic Yandere turn, because I think that was kind of the funny thing, is some of the Patreon comments for part 1 are, oh, how refreshing, a Yandere who's a little bit different than the cookie cutter, oh, she's been in love with you forever type deal. And then part 2 comes along, it's like, nah, she's the same. She's been watching you, she's been stalking you, she's been waiting for you. But even though it did ultimately, we could finally get to see the Yandere side of this orc, what I also, like Steven said, what I really enjoyed was the fact that, because every Yandere kind of has this, but I feel like it's more apparent with the orc, that mix of sweetness with the terrifyingness, because obviously, yes, she's still very domineering and controlling and refuses to let you leave and threatens you and ties you up, yada yada. But she does seem to also genuinely just want a partner, and there's something kind of wholesome about that. Because yeah, if you notice, she uses a lot of terms of endearment, calling you like darling and love and stuff like that. And even though it doesn't take much to get her kind of like, now you weren't thinking of running, were you? The kind of softness underneath it, where she's like, oh yeah, you'll live here with me, I'll take care of you, I'll come home to you every night, we'll cuddle. And I'm just like, this is adorable. I feel this in my soul. I like this. So I really do like how, because again, every Yandere does this, but how this one balanced the sweetness with the scariness. And yes, I also like the low voice Dangerous gives her to pass as an orc. It makes me laugh.
Yeah. This is like Yandere that I almost would want to stay with, honestly. Because it's like, yeah, I mean, she feeds me. Yeah, that's pretty nice. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm glad that Dangerous has brought works into her verse, and I'm looking forward to a Not Safe for Work one. But honestly, I would take just a straight up. See, this is something that I want to have a cuddles with Yandere orc. So yeah, Dangerous. If you hear this, please make the cuddles with the Yandere orc video. I would owe you so much.
5th is the Hunted by a Yandere Werewolf Girl, which is a continuation of that same series. And this is the actual Yandere werewolf, not the Yandere Tsundere Alpha one. This is like the real Yandere, written by, I'm going to butcher his name, but Azure Fenris. I probably butchered that. I'm so sorry.
Azure Fenris.
Okay.
Watch, I'm wrong too. So we just both look like idiots.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's Azure Fenris.
Probably.
Yeah, he's the guy who wrote he's the guy who wrote the Fox Goddess series.
Yep. He seems to have a thing for like doggish creatures, because first the fox and now the wolf.
Which was like, I'm like so confused on like how like she works. Like the fact that the listener is always like, yeah, you're like a hallucination, a dream. I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't, because apparently she has a wolf form, and then a half wolf, half human form, kind of like a kitsune. Because apparently, like she retains her tail in human form, or she just transforms in her. I don't know. I'm confused.
Transformation is confusing. It's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have to say, the listener still being in denial, there's a part of me where I'm like, I feel like at this point, even if he wouldn't come to accept it in the sense of, oh God, this is my life now, he would no longer be pulling the, it's just a dream. It's just a dream. Like, bro, you've been here for multiple days. It's not just a dream. Like, I know denial is a very powerful thing, but WTF, bro.
I feel like after episode 2, I would just be like, yeah, this is real.
Yeah. I have to say, though, it is kind of a nice touch because, yeah, for the most part, I feel like all the other Danger characters take things on, like, face value. They're like, hey, I've been kidnapped by a vampire. And so for this one to actually be like, no, this isn't real. There's got to be some logical explanation. I do kind of like that touch, even if it feels a little unrealistic, especially, yeah, after 3 episodes. Because, like, they wake up snuggling, or well, rather, her snuggling him. So it's like, they've been around each other for a while now, So it's like, at one point, does the denial finally wear off? Unless that'll be the gag, he stays in denial until the very last episode.
It's like, as she's, like, having their babies, he's like, oh, those aren't real babies. Those are hallucination babies.
Yes. That'd be funny. But yes, to actually talk about the content of the video, I quite enjoyed this one. It was, another classical Yandere type, jealous, possessive, always trying to comfort you, but also like threatening you if you don't accept the affection correctly. So, and like one of the comments on Patreon, I believe it was Joshua Fry, had said, this reminds me of the original Love Christ Yandere, and it really does, because even the fast-paced, high-pitched, soft way of speaking is starting to like bleed together. So I'm like, hey, headcanon, maybe like after the original series ended, she became a werewolf somehow. This is her new form. But yeah, that's why I kind of found it funny, is I do like how a lot of these Yanderes do the thing where you're obviously trying to escape or display that you do not return their affections, but they keep trying to like rationalize that in their head. Like, especially in the first episode when she's chasing you, she's like, oh no, he's not running away from me. He's just trying to test my speed. I'm like, I like the way you rationalize this. You're still wrong, but it's creative. So even though there was less of that in this episode, there were moments, and I think like funny moments, because she is trying so hard to play that, oh, well, we're just going to be mates and we'll be happy and I'll be your girl and you'll be my man. That moment when she's like, yeah, I made you an omelet. I'm like, meta, I actually love omelets, so I'm okay with this now.
What I like is that they have something in common. So like, there's actually something with them that like I can see them bonding and getting together over because they love hunting. Um, and so that's like something where I can, like I said, like I can kind of just get it if they get together. Um, I know like a lot of Yandere based stuff, they don't actually like get together. I think ironically enough, the Kitsune one's the only one where like she successfully gets him and he's like, "Yeah, I love you now." Um, which they're by the same writer. That's why I find it ironic. And so I kind of like that aspect of this, how like they both love hunting, and even though her thing of hunting is like, "Hey, let's go kill your former girlfriend that came back."
Yeah, that's classic for yanderes is for them to kill your current girl, and that's like the one thing that always like that's the one thing that upsets me. Not the kidnapping or anything, but like the let's go kill your current girl. It's like, no, leave her out of this, man. But yeah, I do have to like Steven said, I absolutely do like the idea of them bonding over hunting, or maybe even like headbutting at first and then bonding, because it was that moment I think in the last episode, yeah, where they talk about the werewolf basically says, I know you like hunting, but it bothers me that you hunt for sport, whereas I hunt for survival. And it's like, that would be interesting to see them like clash over that, but then later learn to bond, because also like, yeah, in this episode, she's like, oh, I can't wait to get to kill with you. And I jokingly commented, oh, how romantic. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. So I do definitely like that idea that they could, hypothetically, if this one ends like the Kitsune and they do fall in love, the idea that, yeah, they'll be hunting partners, I do kind of like that idea.
Yeah, we were discussing the orc one earlier today, and I like how she's kind of like a twisted version of the orc, where like the orc is like this very like mean and like outwardly mean and sounding and looking person, but she has like these sweet moments, even though like they're probably like still within the classic Yandere traits. Like she still kind of comes off as sweet in certain things. This one's the opposite. She's outwardly sweet, but then super aggressive. Like just that like any moment's notice she can like snap. And like I'll be surprised if this guy makes it out of it. I feel like he's gonna like one too many I don't think you're reals, and he's gonna end up getting his throat slit or something.
I'll show you I'm real. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, is like, this is definitely, I don't know if the author's gonna try to like make this a foil to the Kitsune series, but definitely we're moving at a slower pace because this is part 3 and the guy's still in denial. Whereas in the Kitsune, by this point, they were starting to feel a mutual affection. Like this one's moving much slower, or at the very least, like Steven just said, we're gonna see that side of like maybe this will be one with like a not happy ending, where whether or not the werewolf like snaps or whatever. But yeah, definitely this is a case of she is very aggressive, despite, again, like the love crazed Yandere, despite the kind of sweet voice and stuff. She's ruthless inside, and she and Lister are definitely not on good terms, at least not yet. But we'll see if what direction he decides to go in. Though I will say I do kind of like the just how she does act like a dog, asking for head pats and stuff, because I am weak for dogs, and so I'm just like, I want to pet her and like belly rubs and ear rubs and head scritches and head pats and just so cute. Even though she's psycho, but I mean, she's an adorable large doggo who made me an omelet. I'm weak.
Yeah, I've been enjoying this series so far, and this is a pretty good entry.
Yes. The last audio that we
Huh.
missed out, the most recent one, the quarantining with your obsessive ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. So I forgot this is a sequel. So when she's like, "Yeah, a continuing series," I'm like, "What do you mean continuing series?" Like I've never. So I had to look it up, and she's like, "Oh yeah, the working with your obsessed ex-girlfriend," which
From
I've
like
never listened to.
years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
So like a lot of my problems with this, I feel like I just don't have context to the last one, because I was like, why are you a slave to her? Because like she's not like
Did
a
you listen to the
supernatural
last one?
monster. No, I
To
didn't
catch
listen
up?
to the last one. So that's why I'm saying like I feel like a lot of my problems are just I didn't listen to the last one. Because from my perspective, she's not like a serial killer. She's not that I know of, or a supernatural being. So I'm like, and she's not like feeding you like a mind control potion. So I'm like, why are you dealing with this bitch? Like the whole
As
thing, I'm
one
like,
who listened to both audios, I can answer all those questions, and this is why you need to listen to both audios. Yes, I don't have the exact date for when the original. I could check. I'll do it later.
Like a year ago.
But it, like Steven just said, it was a long time ago. But I do remember that one. It's the idea that, yes, you get a new job and you find out that your boss is your obsessive ex. And it's like, oh, shoot, this is terrible. And because she's your boss, she's like, I've promoted you to my personal assistant. And it's like, well, this ain't going to end well. Because even though the original obsessive ex is literally just the scene of you two talking in her office, the implication is that, yes, in the time span between that episode and this one, she does force you to become her personal assistant because you're contractually obligated, because you're her employee, yada yada. And that's why with this episode, she starts by saying, like, yeah, it's been a few months, but you're starting to adjust. Because in the original episode, she does say, and hey, yeah, maybe I'll have your personal assistant duties extend beyond the office, which even then is the implication that somehow she's going to force you to live with her and be her servant, basically. Like, your job never ends for her. And so that's where this one picks up, with the idea that she has successfully forced you to be her personal assistant everywhere. And yes, basically her slave at this point, like I think she says in the audio, yada yada. So it is definitely a sequel, and it's like a time skip of a few months. But Steven, this is why you gotta listen to the audios. I know you want to be the fan, but like, you still need to listen to these audios.
Fuck you.
Oh, right here, right now? I'm just kidding. We're not making not safe for work audios, guys. Sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just like super annoyed by this one. I don't know if like listening to the first one would have made that better, but I think I enjoy, like, obviously I enjoy Yandere stuff, but like there's like a point where I'm kind of like, dude, just fucking like smack her and just take the loss.
It literally mood.
Yeah.
Dude, that's what I've been saying all this time. Like, I've had this discussion before with several people. Heck, even Dangerous yourself. We were saying, like, obviously Yandere's by nature are like a wish fulfillment, because all of us want to feel loved, and the idea of having someone love us enough to kidnap us and, you know, keep us safe, quote unquote, and get rid of anyone who may pose a threat, like, yes, it's messed up, but it's like a guilty pleasure. But even, you know, Dangerous and me and several others were like, y'all listeners, fight back. Don't just roll over and submit. I know it's Dangerous's voice, but what are you doing? And I think,
like,
when we get the Yandere overload, where it's like, Yandere number 9,382, by then even the most submissive of listeners will be like, can we just cut a bitch?
It's like, call HR for God's sakes. Tell her,
Yes.
like, hey, like, she's like abusing like the employee boss relationship.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, but like I think the thing that kind of keeps me satisfied of other Yanderes is, like, one, I'm just a fan of vampires, so I can get as many vampire audio roleplays as I want, and I won't get tired of it. And two, it's like usually when it's like a supernatural monster, I can kind of just like I'll put it on the wayside. I'll be like, whatever. They have like as much power over you as they have so much power over you that you really can't do anything other than like kill them. But as far as humans ones go, I've never really been a huge fan of it. Like, I am a fan of like the ones I've listened to of like Dangerous's classic Yandere, but I think that's just because it's a character I really like. So while I did find this audio like very sexy, I mean this one is barely safe for work. I like,
because even in the tags is kind of safe for work in the tags.
Yeah, there's just like so many references, sexual references, and I'm like, is she even gonna put this on YouTube? Like, we got really close, but
To be fair though, she literally has a YouTube video called "Working for Your Mom's Horny Friend," so if that one can pass, this one will be fine.
I hope that one's age restricted.
Probably, I think it is, but my point still stands that YouTube allowed it, even if it had to be age restricted.
Yeah. So yeah, there are like some sexy titillating moments. I don't know how weird this is gonna make me sound, but like, fuck, I don't even, I guess I'll say it and then I'll delete it. There'll just be a weird cut if I end up taking this out. But like, I find the concept of like taking off my girlfriend's high heels like very sexy, and I don't know why, but I just do. So like, moments like that, I'm like, okay, I'm getting into this. But like, I guess just like the character and the content, I wasn't like that huge of a fan of, just because I was taking this less as like a fun Yandere thing and more like, wow, this girl's an asshole.
To put lightly. Yeah, I think for me, like, I'm also neutral about this audio, where like, yes, it was physically well done, you know, the voice was great, the sound effects were great, like, it objectively, like, from a neutral standpoint, it's just fine, and the writing was fine, and I did enjoy it as like a continuation of the original, but I think it is a case of, like, for me at least, a little bit of Yandere burnout where I was like, okay, we get it, you're her slave, moving on. So really at this point it was more just for me like to see what type of Yandere she was, like what was she having you do, and like yeah, obviously it rubbed me the wrong way because I was like, dude, I'm literally doing everything for even down to taking off her shoes for her, and I'm like, lady, you lazy son of a gun, what the heck. But yes, I still did enjoy it in the sense it was just like I wanted to see what was up, so I went to see what was up and I got my answer. So and I feel like too, because it just has the even though obviously it's set up for a sequel, because it's like, oh shoot, you're living with her now, even if it's non-con. The implications that it could technically have the potential to have a sequel. I have no idea if it's actually supposed to be a series, but I think for me it was more like a good audio to listen to once, and that's usually, you know, just to, I hope it doesn't sound like we're insulting the author or anything like that.
No,
It's
you
still
did a good
audio.
job. Yeah, you did a good job. There's nothing wrong with the audio other than just like our own like personal like opinions and gripes about it.
Yeah, but we're the worst fans, so really don't take anything we say seriously.
Yeah.
We don't have a right to an opinion.
We're the only ones who have the balls to say we don't 100% love a dangerous audio.
Honestly, true. I got some people I know who literally love everything she does, and I'm like, valid, but do you really have zero? Because yeah, I'll admit some of the, I'm not going to say it, I'm not naming names, but yeah, there are some series that are like crazy popular that I'm like, I don't understand why everyone's on the hype train. Like, because again, like objectively, every audio is good because Dangerous puts her heart and soul into these things, man. But for personal preferences, sometimes I'm like, yeah, objectively this was good, but I'm just not into this stuff in particular. So while everyone else is like, yeah, best series, I'm sitting here like, I listened to it once and it was good. Maybe I'll listen to it again, but we'll see.
And that concludes the wrap up portion of our episode. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a little bit different than what we do, but then again, we're still very new, so everything we do is different because we have no consistency yet. And so yeah, the week of August though should be a little bit better when it comes to consistency and scheduling. We have a very interesting. We have what I think is going to be a very interesting episode coming next week. I don't want to say what it is just in case it doesn't go through, so that way I don't look like an idiot promising something like we did with the Dolly episode. But that's still coming, by the way.
Yeah, it would disappoint all 5 of our fans.
But after that special episode, we are actually going to be reviewing every week basically the crossover series. So we're going to review the Vampire, Werewolf, and Witch series. So that should be very fun. Yeah, Dangerous has said the next crossover episode should be out around September, so we're really hoping that we can time it correctly. And if not, hey, at least we know what we're doing for a month now instead of like week to week, so that'll be really cool. And I know what you're thinking, Steven, now that you have like a proper schedule, that means that you guys will have an actual closing statement, right?
Wrong.